Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for joining us today on Major Players, where I bring you a major player in their industry, in their field, because the goal here, just like with everybody, you got to get to know people playing a big game in their space. And today I got my friend, my homeboy. We've known each other for a really long time. Family's known each other. Ryan Stewman. He's legitimately a real guy, and I love this dude. I take his advice. He's helped me a ton, way more than he thinks, and we'll go over that today. So, thanks for jumping on here, man. I really appreciate you, Ryan.
Yeah, man. The least I can do. I never forget that one time you knocked me out, man. On the side of the mountain. That I never forget that. I tell that story a lot. I'm like, yeah, man, I'm trying to fight Victor. He choked me and knocked me the fuck out, man. I don't even know what happened. I just woke back up later.
That's funny. I had a dude ask me that. He woke up from being knocked out, and he was like, "How many people have you killed?"
Has this ever gone wrong?
Yeah, for sure. That's funny, dude. But hey, man, but no, for real, like those were good times. They were good cycles of life, dude. And they kind of like, like we were just talking about this a second ago. It's like those were, I always say like everybody has these moments in their life where you evolve. You go through what you need in the moment, and it kickstarts something else. And some dudes stay in that world too long, and then some dudes get out of it and they become something else, which is what I wanted to go over with you today. Because I watched you transition into a lot of different things. So, but before I go into that, man, like tell me a little bit about you, how you grew up, like what worked in your life and stuff like that when you were younger, and got you to the place that you're in today.
Man, I will say this. When we were doing that event on the hill,
Hmm.
and I don't know the other people's name or anything that was there, but I just remember like I was the first one to like get in the rocks and the first one to go up to that pillbox, and I'm like, man, these other people, like it made me realize like, man, these were successful people and they couldn't even play all in for like 24 hours. And I'm like, in my mind, I was like, man, maybe I'm doing a little bit better at taking action than I thought. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it was a big eye opener for me because I'm like, wow, these dudes are successful and they quit before we even started. Like, shit, I got a chance to win. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, not just there on the side of the hill, but like the game of life,
Yeah. Big
So,
time.
which, didn't, in the beginning of my life, it didn't look like that. I'm a prolific mistake maker. I've messed up a lot.
Mm.
When I was young, my family, uh, my mom and dad split up, and I eventually got adopted by my stepdad, and we didn't get along, had to deal with a lot of violence and disagreements and abuse and things of that nature. And I left home when I was 15, and every now and then I'd have to come crawling back for a few days so I could get my bearings. But for the most part, been on my own for since I was 15 years old, crashing on friends' couches and everything else. Eventually, got into drugs and sold drugs. Went to prison. Got out of prison. Changed my life. After prison, gave my life to the Lord and changed my life, and then had to go back to prison. You want to talk about a challenge in life? Imagine overcoming something as catastrophic as losing a family member or going to prison or, it's losing a limb or all of those things are like top tier PTSD, catastrophic, having to kill somebody in war, like something
Yeah.
like that. And then give your life to God and think, okay, man, because that's what they tell you in the
Right.
church when they're trying to convince you to give your life to God. Hey, man, you give your life to God, everything's going to be okay. And
Right.
then a
Right.
couple of years later, I got to go back to prison and I didn't do anything wrong.
Hmm.
Like literally, I was in some technicality type of crap with guns. And so
Right.
they sent me to federal prison. I'm like, I thought we had a deal, like
Yeah. What's going
I
on, man?
thought there was an understanding. I was reading in this book right here, and but it was a big lesson. It's like, no, I've still got to make the decisions, and honestly, even though it had been 5 years later, it was a consequence of an action I took prior to giving my life to God anyway. And then
Mm.
I look back at that, and I actually needed to be removed, kind of like you were talking about leaving Hawaii. I needed to be removed from my circle,
Right.
so it was actually he did me a favor.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can think you're cursed, and you look back at it, and you're like, "Oh, that was a blessing."
Yeah. Yeah.
But these days, I am, I got a pretty large following on social media. I've been building that organically with real American followers
Mm.
since 2008. I'm one of the
Right.
first guys to ever sell courses on social media.
Hmm.
I've helped a lot of celebrities that people know, I've been with my wife for 12 years, and we have
Yeah.
4 children that we're raising. And I'm a full time lender. We loan our private capital to
Mm,
people, and then a
mm.
part time rancher. So we live in Dallas, Texas, and have a ranch in Ardmore, Oklahoma.
Right. Yeah, I've been seeing that, man.
Big old cows, man. Big
I,
old
s-
cows.
I saw that, dude. I was like, dude, this dude's a rancher now. That's crazy.
Yeah, I grew up probably first half of my life on a horse farm,
Yeah.
and I like horses. I got 3 of them, but there ain't no. You got to be like horses are like trading Lamborghinis and stuff. It's a
Mm.
rich man's game,
Yeah.
versus
Yeah.
cows. Everybody eats steak
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
some point.
Yeah.
Everybody eats a hamburger. So,
Right.
so I decided to go the cow route. So,
Right.
plus
That's
you ain't never gonna catch me out there like brushing cows down and shoeing them. You ain't gotta do none of that stuff. So,
That's cool. It's funny too, man, because like I'm from Texas, I'm from Killeen, and when I first got into real estate, we have a pretty similar background. I left home I left my mother's house when I was 12, moved back to Texas with my dad, moved out of his house when I was about 14, 15 years old, and had my first kid, my oldest daughter, Nastasha. And same, we won't swap, stories, but it's like selling drugs, which is not drugs now, is weed. So they should let a lot of those guys out of
right?
prison that are
Yeah.
still there. But selling drugs, got on probation, got saved, got in trouble again. But then it was just like, okay, God, like, what do you want me to do? Because I'm gonna go to jail because I was on probation. And it was just like, all right, real estate. It was almost like God was like, I told you what to do. Because I had this real estate book, I had just got into it, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna commit there. Um, it didn't get better, but I was bringing that up because I remember like the first family that we bought some real estate from, I bought like 24 properties. I bought a portfolio. It wasn't a thing. It's a thing now, but back then I was like, dude, I bought 24 properties all at one time. It's nuts. Um, those guys also were horse traders and they traded futures on hay. This whole world I had no idea about, like zero idea about, and how much money that was there. So when they were telling me about these horses, and I went with those guys and some other guys I knew, and we went to this auction. And they were like, you can buy a horse for like 1,200 bucks or something like that. And I was like, what? And I was like, yeah, whatever. So I ended up buying two horses, 1,200 bucks. They kept them, and I ran an ad in the penny saver and sold them both and made like 700 bucks each. I was like, this is what you guys do? I had no idea. So it's interesting that you
Yep.
say that with like, but like I was bringing that up to say like that beginning of like learning something else, taking certain skills, right? You do stuff, you have a life, and then you transfer it over and you start realizing there's other things that people are doing out there that you just don't know. Like you don't know what you don't know until you know, then you realize I didn't know that. How can I get involved? But it's kind of all the same thing. So that's interesting, man. So like you were and this is something I wanted to ask too, like when you were growing up, and I know this is a weird question. I always look at this and I'm learning this with doing these interviews. Everyone has 3 points. You have exposure or you have an experience. So like did your family talk about money a lot? Were you raised around it? Did you have that experience young where you were like, oh yeah, like this is money? Like, did you have that or did you have like a no more moment where you like, I got to go do something?
Well, kind of a funny story. So, like when I was real young, like 5 years and below,
Mm,
and I don't remember a whole lot of it, but I have some very serious, memories, but not a lot. But my grandfather, on my mom's side, her dad was a banker.
mm,
And my grandfather on my birth father's side was an entrepreneur that owned a glass factory in Rockwall, Texas. And so when I was young, like my grandparents were like what we would consider millionaires, rich, this,
mm.
right? Doesn't necessarily mean that my mom and dad were, but my grandparents were.
Right.
But in 1984, when I was 5 years old, the insolvency because of the Resolution Trust Company with John McCain,
Yeah.
they absorbed all of the savings and loans across the country and bought them up in their paper up for pennies on a dollar, essentially bankrupted not only my grandfather, but my other
Mm,
grandfather who had his money in the bank as well. And my grandmother went to federal prison because these were people in a small these the SNLs were in small towns. So you're
Right.
in a town like Leonard, Texas with 1,200 people. They all
Mm,
bank at the only bank in town.
right.
And so my grandma actually scammed money back from the government to pay the people in town as much as she could, and they
Mm,
actually put her in prison for like 6 months behind it.
wow.
So I by the time I was like 8, and you don't know nothing when you're a little kid, it's just a little kid, but like
Yeah.
looking back at it, I was like, well, I was exposed to, like I remember being 3, 4 years old and going and my grandpa would take me to the car lot on Saturday because he did all the loans for the car dealer. And then we would pick out a car and go take it for a test drive.
Right.
Just these little perks you got, you know what I mean? Like my grandpa never bought the cool cars, but he could go test drive them if you wanted to, And so, and then my mom and dad after that they never really like they're still today they're just like normal average Americans or whatever the case may be,
Yeah.
but I've broken that mold as far as my on my entrepreneur grandfather's side, my dad's side, there I had an uncle that one time took a company public when
Hmm.
I was about 15 or 16. Now remember, I hadn't seen these people in forever, so I'm adopted. They're out of my life, but when I was like
Yeah.
15 or 16, I remember hearing that he had made about $50 million taking a company public,
Yeah.
but about 10 years later I heard he was broke. You know what I mean?
Mm,
So could be true, could not be true, but I know from just watching that his lifestyle changed. So what I saw, Victor, was like money and then crashes and then
mm,
money and my grandpa, my uncle. And I'm like, when I got out of prison, the first time I went to work at a car wash, and then eventually, a couple of years later, I'm in the mortgage business and I became a millionaire. Then I got to go back to prison and I walk out of prison with nothing. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to be just like my parents or my grandparents.
right.
That was a huge fear for me because like, oh shit, I've had it, not had it already once. And now I know at 46 years old, anybody that's got it's had it, lost it, got it, had to get it back. They're still fighting for
Yeah.
it now. Like my grandparents at some point just gave up on the game. But if you never give up on the game, you're always going to be like, got
Yeah.
it, not had. There's going to be seasons where
Right.
you're working harder than others, right?
Right.
There's going to
Right.
be seasons where it's easier to get the money flowing in than
Mm,
others, right? And a lot of times it's the Fed's raising the rate or the bank's tightening guidelines and shit that doesn't even have to deal with your performance personally. And so,
yeah.
but I saw that, and then the first time that I made money, and then I had to go to prison, and then my wife at the time divorced me, and I lost all of it, and I'm like, I can't be doing this. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
then I get out of prison in 2008. I get to where I'm making 300-400 grand a year. 2010, the government says, "Hey man, you can't get a federal license," and I'm like, man, this is twice. You know what I'm
Mm,
saying? Like,
yeah.
and I start to see this wave, and I'm like, okay, but I realized that like, hey man, we all gonna have to pivot a few times. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
Bill Gates ain't doing the same thing he was doing 10 years ago. Neither's Warren Buffett. Neither's all these guys have had to pivot technology, the way things work. Like we're always gonna have to grow.
Right.
And I realized that like the big breakthrough moment for me was, well, if you don't like this, the cycle only ends when I quit,
Hmm.
right? And at some point, I'm not in bad shape by any stretch of the I'm like you, I always think I'm doing worse than I am, but
Yeah.
because I know that anything I know is always around the corner. That's my paranoia. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like
Right.
a tax bill or whatever the hell is always around the corner. So, but but for me, it was like, okay, that big breakthrough was like, all right, any business is going to have ups and downs and seasons, and if I just make sure that I'm always there to adapt and I don't quit, then this will never end. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like I see a lot of people, especially the last few years, has been really tough in the economy. A lot of people just like, you know what, man, I'm just going to go get a job somewhere, and that's cool. That's people need employees and everything else, but
Right.
it's like they left when times got tough. I know this. Your success in life will be measured in direct proportion to your ability to withstand financial pain.
Hmm. Hmm. Man, me and a buddy of mine were talking about that. He has a pretty big firm, and I was like, the guy that can take the most punishment usually wins this game because to your part, man, like it's a
Yep.
capital, it's a money game. And at some point when the money dries up, you think you're the source of the money, but it came from somewhere else. And it's like if you can outlast it, or if you can get in front of it, or if you're like me, I get spanked first because I do stuff really fast. I don't ask a lot of questions. I'm like, I'm kind of a shiny object guy. So I'm like, oh shit, what's that? But I also don't like to lose. Probably like for you, like depending on like where you grew up and how you made it, like you saw the ups and downs. And if you watch a lot of people get spanked, you tend to be like, yeah, I'm not gonna go that way. You end up going the other way. So you're right, dude. Like my buddy said the same thing. I was like, dude, if you can withstand that level of pain and you don't stop, you're gonna make it. The problem is like at what end of the pain you're gonna be on. Are you gonna get spanked first and don't stop, or are you gonna get spanked last and stop too? Because at some point, like those are your choices, up or down. So that's cool that you said that, man. Thanks for sharing that because that's real. But I want to say this, man. I wrote
Well,
this down.
and
Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't want to interrupt your thought.
and for me, part of that is, with having a felony, I don't have a whole lot of choices to go get a job. You know what I mean? I got
Yeah.
a GED and stuff, so it's like, dude, I either figure it out or wind up back in prison, and I'm not trying to go back there.
hmm Yeah. It's
A
funny.
little bit different motivation than maybe the average guy on the street has, though.
That's right. That's right. And I was telling me and my wife were talking about this because Sharon was a retired officer in the military. And she was a foster kid. We're a survivor family, so she was a foster kid. She got out of the military, but she did good. She stayed in that working environment. When I got out, to your point, I got in trouble. I was on probation. I had a felony charge, and I couldn't get a job. And then I got into real estate. And then the only other thing I did during real estate, because I had to have an actual job, was a buddy of mine's, which is one of my investor partners. He's going to be on the show too. He had a insurance company, so I was selling insurance, annuities, and stuff like that in Texas. And I kind of got into the sales game. That was the professional side, the only real professional job I've had. That was in like 97, 98. That was the last job I've had. And I got really good at that's how I learned, to your point, money. But, my licensing was kind of jacked up because of the probation stuff and they were kind of letting me in. But to your point, I didn't have another choice. And everyone's like, dude, like what made you make this work? I was like, I had no other choices. Like, so if I'm not gonna say I burned bridges, but they were burnt. So like if you got a felony charge, you're on probation, you can't work certain jobs because I got jobs and got let go after they. I was like, dude, I was on probation. I got the insurance job, so it was a straight line sales job. Like if you don't kill, you don't eat. So that was good, and I was a top salesman there. While I was also doing real estate and buying houses in Texas and picked up a bunch of deals, had no idea what I was doing. It was a survival mechanism. It was like my buddies are like, dude, like, you have great work ethic. And I was like, you're confusing work ethic with survival. Like those are two different things. Like most of the stuff I didn't want to do. So, but I had to
Yeah.
do it, right? So it puts you in this learning capacity to what's good, and we're going right back to the ups and downs. Like, therefore, like we don't view the ups and downs, or I didn't view the ups and downs, and I'm sure you too, as this thing to us like it's an up and down, or I got spanked, but that doesn't mean I can stop because stop and do what? I mean, we say that in our house all the time. It's like quit and do what? Like, what are you gonna do? Um, and it becomes tunnel vision in a way. But man, I really appreciate you though, and being honest, because like I was like, okay, and this is just what I know about you because we know each other and I watch. So I'm a peeping Tom online. I don't like everything and stuff like that, but it's like I see, right? So I'm like, okay, when we met, you were already kind of not in the mortgage stuff, but you were moving into the social media game because you helped me with some stuff that I was doing, right? Because you were like the only dude who was really straight with me all the time. So like you went from sales guy, social media marketing, and what's crazy, and I don't tell people this, but it was like I remember we went to an event. You and I were sitting at a table together. You were getting ready to start working with Kent Cartier, Kent here. And you were like, dude, I'm trying to come up with a name for my group. And that's when you were coming up with Break Free Academy. And you were like, I'm trying to decide whether Break Free Academy. And I think that's how Apex and stuff got started. So that was social media. Then
Yep.
the leadership stuff, because you were already selling courses online about social media and stuff like that. The leadership stuff, which turns into the coaching, consulting. Then you moved into the technology space and I noticed that what I like about you is you're kind of all your businesses solve your problems. I tell people all the time, I'm like, dude, the best entrepreneurs and businessmen that I know are solving their own problems and then let you in. Like you were like, dude, I'm tired of click funnels and like say like all the other stuff. So I
Yep.
started I started lead pages, right? Phone sites, lead
Phone
pages,
sites. Yep.
phone sites based on the landing pages because you're like, dude, it's too complex. I just need this. So you started a technology company and then I noticed you were doing some investing. You were doing real estate investing, and then you also did some other investing with some other dudes speaking that, and then ranching now, and now back to finance. So like, so like I was like, dude, like if you want to talk, just what you said, if you want to talk about a guy that has went through a situation where, I mean, other people may not see it. I mean, and I know, right? Because I remember meeting Amy for the first time, you know, when, when it was like Jax, like, and then your other son came
Yeah,
along. So like,
maybe we've been together for like 3 months when we
yeah.
were riding around looking for shrimp trucks or
Yeah,
whatever the hell it
exactly.
was.
Yeah. So
You know?
like, and it's not about that. It's just the little literal factor where it's like some people like can talk a good game, and then there's some people who live it, and there's some people who are doing it at the same time. Because living it or doing it are two different things too. So,
Yeah.
but man, thanks for being successful for that. That's huge. Um, but all of that. Sorry to run off on that. I'm just geeked out about it because I enjoy that. So. One of the things too, like I was listening to somebody talk, and he was like, if you want to get in the business, get in the money business. I've been in real estate for a long time, like you. My real estate segue didn't start off in fix and flips. I was kind of more on the finance side because my business partners, which I just had her on, Jamie, they had Success Mortgage Investments out of Austin. So they were kind of, it's funny because I always laugh now, but I'm like, because it wasn't a thing then. I was like, they were probably a part of the crash in '08. There were a couple of companies that were doing it because they were actually structuring good loans, subprime loans, tying them together as securitizing them and sending them back out onto the open market to renew warehouse lines. So I learned that business first. I learned finance. I rode around with dudes who had hard money lending companies and went to sites with them to learn, like, okay, when you lend money, what are you looking for? So I learned debt service, spreads, yields, seller seconds, how to negotiate away a second, how to tie together the liens on assets. Never how to fix a toilet or anything like that. Like I knew financial structure, right? Which is why I was always good, but it wasn't until like recently to whereas now people are like it's taboo. I always say like once somebody starts teaching it, the game's done. So like a couple of years ago, I pushed away from certain things that I was doing, subject twos, sold my apartment buildings, and I was like, I think it's time for me to go ahead and do syndications. I've been doing it, at a small scale, but I think it's time for me to get into bigger deals, which is why we moved. And I noticed around that time, people who were in the marketing space, social media space, but they were real business guys like yourself who had a real business. They started moving a little bit closer to the capital world because money was becoming evident as being a need. So as you've been through all these transitions, man, like is your capital company gonna be, you think that's gonna turn into the game maker long term for you and your like when you think about your family legacy, you think it's gonna be on the money side?
Well, I still have Break Free Academy, and
Hmm.
we still have 3,000 plus members and growing. Phone sites still has a couple thousand users, so it's still making money every day. Um, you know, I realize though that phone sites, especially as technology, you can get in it and you've got to either stay on top of it or eventually something shows up like AI and it can either make it easier or replace it. And it's only a matter of time. It hasn't replaced it yet, but it's only a matter of time for you to tell AI to make shit for you, right?
Yeah.
So I realized that probably wasn't going to be the exit, right? That I was looking for. And I realized with Apex, which is what Break Free Academy is, it they're not going to buy that. They will be buying Ryan Stewman, which would mean I bought myself a job, and I don't want that either.
Hmm.
So I had to take a couple of years ago. I had to take a look and think, okay, what's something I'm good at that I can transfer my skills to that I can actually build and sell? Because at this point, I'm 46 years old. I'm married to the woman of my dreams. I have four amazing kids. I have my dream ranch. I live in my dream house. I've been in the same house here for 8 years now.
Yeah.
I have owned my ranch for over 3 years now. I've got everything that I want, and I've spoken in front of huge audiences. I've drove
Yeah.
every car, flown every jet. So I'm like, one thing that I haven't done is I haven't sold a company,
Mm.
and I never created phone sites with. I don't know how to, I didn't know how to sell shit when I created that. So I didn't know. I created Apex just as a way to help people. And it got a lot more popular than I thought it was going to, you know?
Yeah.
But I look at this and Closer Capital, and I'm like, look, this is something I can build, something that I can use the influence that I've been building for 17 years. I built a network of business owners across the country that follow me and a very large following of that. And I built the trust with them. And so while everybody else is asking for money, everybody else is saying, you know, invest with me. I'm raising capital. Give me money and I'll take equity in your company. I was like, hey, why don't I get back into just loaning it to people?
Yep.
And instead of asking, like when people join Apex, they need two things: some skills and some money. So let me handle the money side of it. And quickly, I realized the following: if you join, and I'll just say, like you join Apex for top tier, 30,000 bucks. I've got 12 months of coaching with you and probably 5 or 6 in person, you know, events that I've got to schedule to make that 30 grand. Okay.
Right.
So 12 months, I got to coach you and tell you shit you're fucking up without you wanting to fight me or charge me back or any of that. Right. Like that's a
Right. That's
series for
real.
12 months. I got to technically walk on ice around you for 12 months because if I'm honest with you, then you're probably going to charge me back. Okay.
Right.
Then, on top of that, I've got to put these events that cost me money, got to rent a venue for everybody to come in and all this stuff. And I look at it, it's like, man, that's the hardest. And yeah, maybe I have 100 people, so it's 3 million bucks, but that's the hardest $3 million. Plus, them venues ain't cheap. The prices of hotels go up. So I start looking at it, it's like I can loan somebody $1 million and make that same 30 grand in 3 days.
That's right. That's right.
And they're happy. And they're never going to come back to me and go, well, you gave me the money. I didn't like it. Like that's not versus, you know, you said something, you called me fat and told me I need to get in the gym or whatever. It's like, well, look at you, you know, are you blind? You know
Right.
what I mean? Like, that's just how I operate. Like, people oftentimes will say, yeah, man, I want some excellence in my life. And you start showing them what excellence looks like, and they quickly start getting mad at you because they realize that they won't rise to that standard, you know?
That's right.
And I had over 100,000 people come to I have 103,000 people as of last month buy tickets to my events, buy my courses, and become members of Apex, right? So altogether, over 100,000 people. It's hard to make all those people happy. And I did a damn good job. I got a 0.03 chargeback rate. But
Dang.
like I said, I had to do a lot of dancing and everything else. And this is
Right.
over a fucking 15-year period of time, right? So
Mhm.
I say all of that because, you know, I get into the lending business, dude, and I'm everybody's money plug. And they love me, you know, and we're growing so fast, man. You know, now we're doing in a month what used to take us a year. So it's funny. We did but last year was our second year.
Mhm.
Year one, you know, we did a couple $1 million year one, trying to figure the shit out. Year two, we're doing that every month. By the end of the year, we're doing
Mm.
that about every week. And now, you know, and that was only with 5 people. Now I've got 26 people working over there, and we're blowing up, man. And so what I've done though is I've set up a system where I have over 1,000 affiliates, and
Yeah.
I'm on the path to having 100 brokers. And then
Mm.
plus the ads, I'm a master at advertising and all that. So we've got leads coming in. So somebody can come to work at Closer Capital as a sales broker, and I'm handing them affiliates to manage.
Yeah.
And then they got their own leads plus the
Mm.
company leads that come in. And dude, it's this is something that none of these other companies have because I've spent 15 years building this influence.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and in our business, we're not just, hey, here's money, see you later.
Mm.
It's okay, here's what you qualify for. And in 3 months, come back and hopefully qualify for more because you're doing the right thing. And we'll refinance it. 6 months after that, come back, refinance it again until we can get you to a 7-figure line and hand you off to our private banker.
Right.
Right. So it's not just to come get quick capital. It's like, let me assist you to get where you want to go
Mm.
to how the billionaires played this game. And and it's really been a huge difference for us because we're teaching them, you know, how to manage debt alongside their taxes, how to,
Mhm.
you know, hey, you know, you can go out and make 200 grand, and then if you need 100 grand, you go out and make 200 grand. If you got a 50% margin, you got 100 grand left over. Usually it's way more than that, right?
Right.
But
Right.
if you go out and borrow, and then you got to pay taxes on that 100 grand. If you go out and borrow 100 grand, you don't pay taxes on that 100 grand you borrow. Plus, you can write off the future earnings against the interest that you took on the loan. So we start teaching people the bigger puzzle to where
Hmm.
they get all their, because man, the thing that sucks is the guy that comes to me first time that ever wants to borrow money, he's never borrowed in his business, he needs 50 grand or 100 grand, and his financials are a mess. Cool.
Right.
We're going to help you get all this together, and then we're going to help you keep it together as we progress you up to that 7 figure plus line of credit that you're looking for.
Right.
And that also gets people thinking from, oh, I'm just a construction company, pool company, whatever, that borrowed 50 grand, all the way to like, these guys are going to put me in Apex and help me scale my business. Because people that fund with Closer Capital, we put them in Apex. Why wouldn't I? I want them to be good with the money. So why wouldn't I give them my skills that I've been teaching people forever? So
Yeah.
now they got the money and the training, so they have zero excuses.
Right. Right. Dude, and that's
So
and so what you're saying about having a good exit. And I noticed that, because uh, again, like I'm connected to like a lot of fund managers, debt fund managers, private equity guys, M&A guys, things like that. Primarily real estate. But to your point, when I'm listening to like these M&A guys, I'm always like, everybody talks about, exiting companies, but the buyers and stuff, they're looking at bolt-ons. So similar like what you're saying, like hey, if I have a lending company, but we also have our consulting company. So not only do can we lend to our lend, but we can also now consult. We have our consulting fees. Any company, an overall company that wants a full suite is can look at that from from revenue and go times earnings, whatever it is that it is, regardless of whether you stay on as a consultant after that or not. Face of the company, it could be a 3 year non-compete or whatever. So it's funny how like that, like we said, that transitional level of what you've done builds that up to be like a no-brainer for anybody. And you know that because you watch guys in like the insurance space, Medicaid, Medicare, they have all these bolt-on companies and they have a Salesforce marketing team, consulting firm, and then they roll it up and they exit for a hedge fund, right? My buddy and one of my investors and buddies and friends out of Austin, he has a tax company. He's had a couple of big exit. Their companies do his company. He started it. This is the guy I used to work for. My only job. His company does over $1 billion a year in revenue, and it's all tax strategies. And he's getting ready to do something else. And so I talk to him every month, and he's like, "Dude, you're like you said." He's like, "I don't know what you know real estate wise." He has a bunch of ranches and stuff like that. He buys like 2,000 acres at a time, and then just parcels them and sells them. But we talk a lot about the exit stuff. Just what you're saying is like how do I take what I have and either acquire another company and bolt it on? Usually accounting firms are like they trade at one times earnings. So if it makes $1 million in revenue a year, you can buy it for $1 million in revenue a year, which is nuts. But do what with it? You got to put it someplace, kind of like yours, like you said. You're like, dude, why not have all of my customers go here and my customers over here that maybe they weren't making a bunch of revenue, they were startups, but they have this thing, their marketing is getting up. Now I can look at their balance sheet as a consultant and be like, hey, now you qualify for X loans, and it's a cycle. And I like what you said, your salespeople as well as your affiliates, because again, that goes right back with running teams. And I think people miss that, dude. Like if you can't run a team, or if you can't, people think it's a business thing, but it's not. As I know a lot of people who have businesses that can't run teams, and I know a lot of people who can run a team, sales floor, marketing group of people, or the administrative team, but they can't build a business around it. They just don't have the. I always say like they're capable, but you don't have the capacity. A lot of people are like that. That's the people you say
yeah,
like, dude, you're awesome. You should do this, and they do it, and they feel pressure and they quit, and you're like, I don't know, dude. I can't believe in you more than you believe in yourself, but I see it. And it's also knowing that limit. So I like what you've done, which goes right back to, like I said, dude, the transitional piece. Um, because I've lost some friends, really cool friends that got mad at me similar to like for the transition I'm in. I'm like, dude, like I don't want to keep doing that. Like you watch people get hammered, you get, and you're like, I already see what's happening over there. I'm gonna take this next leap, which means you might not be able to follow me, but I know where I'm going. And I like that you did that. Um, I know one of the things we're getting ready to do similar to yours is we got our club that we're running that I'm just starting, like literally 2 weeks ago, and we're starting this AUM group. So it's just people with 20 million in assets under management or above. I like to be bigger than that, but like just that level of group similar to. So now we're just talking about how do we continue to scale our companies, whether you're in real estate, whether you're in M&A, whatever the case would be. Primarily, it's going to be real estate people, right? Fund managers, syndicators, but people that are above board. And it's hard to. once you get into like most of the deals we're looking at now for our fund are like 70 million, 50 million, $100 million deals. It's kind of hard to be below board on those deals. There's too many people that, it's too many players. Fannie and Freddie aren't going to let you steal. So,
Yeah.
I'm not interested in going to prison either because of the securities and compliance that I already have with my fund. But that's crazy, man. I really like that. I really do. So, big question with that. And so like because I noticed you moved away from the big events. So what are you kind of seeing now in that space? Are you seeing like the smaller, tighter, more focused type scenarios are happening? Because I mean the reality of it is people have their own stuff. The world has kind of changed a little bit. How's it been for you on that front or what you see?
Well, I hope the event business makes a comeback, but the hotels are charging too much money. The events, I have to throw my shit in an arena.
Hmm.
So, arenas where bands play are charging too much money. And it's weird. They would rather make no money and have it open those days than make some money. It's the fucking craziest thing to me. And so it's like, and the biggest piece, man, and I'm not shitting on anything, but it's going to sound like it. But I haven't met any exciting people that I want to put on my stage that hasn't been up there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody that I thought who has already been up there and they're doing their own thing and all that. And part of that is like, for example, Goggins. I was one of the first people to
Yeah.
put him up. He's been on my stage a couple times. And he's in somebody's town every week speaking now though, so it's not a oh who I never see this guy. Like when I had
Mm.
Goggins at my last event that he was at, he hadn't spoke for 3 years and barely was doing Instagram at that time. Now he's on Instagram every day and he's speaking every week, so it's not as big of an attraction. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
if Metallica it says, "Hey, we're playing in Vegas only this year," then you might buy a flight to Vegas to go see him if you're but if Metallica's like we're in 50 cities this year, then why would
Why
I go
show
to
up?
Vegas when I could just wait for him to come to Frisco, right?
Right. Right.
And there really hadn't been anybody that was exciting. Now they're everywhere, and so it's not as I always try to catch people before they were famous. Like if you look at my
Mm.
events historically, I had people a year or two before they blew up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I just maybe I'm out of touch with the industry. And I think a
Mm.
lot of it was, in 2023, 24, everybody and their mom got in the mastermind event business because when the
Yeah.
economy's bad, people start side hustles, right?
They do.
And so, I was just like, man, I just I haven't been like, man, you know what? I'll put a lineup with these guys together. I used to be that way, man. And maybe I'm a little, what do you call it? Uh, cynic or something like that, right? Because I've been let down by a lot of people on stages
Yeah.
too. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But at the same time, when I met Goggins, he didn't have a social media yet. I
Mm.
met him through a friend of a friend, and I was like, dude, people need to hear you. Like people need to know who. When I met Ed Milet, same thing. I was like, people need to fucking listen to you. Like you're big in your company, which has a lot of people, but the world needs to hear you. And
Yeah. Yeah.
when same with for and probably the only person that I haven't had on my stage, the son of a bitch he's weaseled me twice, but I'm gonna get him at some point. But the only person that still excites me today that I haven't been able to get is Andy Frisella.
Mm.
And the reason why I haven't been able to get him, Andy's a friend of mine. He texted me yesterday, but the reason why I haven't been able to get him is he don't do them for hardly nobody. And so to me,
Mm.
that's like, okay, cool. So if I get him, there's that exclusivity. He's only playing in Vegas this year, right?
Right. Right.
But he's for the last couple of years hasn't spoken anywhere really outside of First Form. So, until I can probably get him to headline something. So if you're watching this and me and Andy think, put us together, but until I can probably get him to headline something, then I don't know, man. They're gonna have to drive the costs down and
Mm.
like think about it. Even if I give you a ticket for $99, you still got to spend $600 at an airport, $200 a night
Yeah.
minimum at a hotel room, and that's in the hood. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So your ticket, if you're selling somebody a ticket for $2,000, it's $5,000-$6,000 maybe for them to fucking get here and eat and go out and all that shit. And so, in the economy today, that's just not feasible for
Hmm.
as many people as it was a few years ago. You know what I mean? So, and that may
Definitely.
change next year. There's lots of economic things changing and stuff, but I didn't throw one last year, and I don't have one on the books this year. But what I've been doing is taking 15 to 20 people at a time out to my ranch and spending a
Mm.
couple days with them, because here's what I find works best in at the level I'm at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can sit around and talk business and have speakers and shit, and that's cool if you're doing a big event like Life Source or something. But really, like, I like the Kevin Nations thing where it's 15,
Yeah.
20 of us sitting in the house figuring out what the fuck. It's not a format. It's like, yo, Vic, what do you need? Cool. Well, meet Ryan. He can help you with that. Hey, AJ, what do you need? Cool. Meet Brian. He can help you with that.
Right.
That works well. So what I've been doing is bringing these guys out to my ranch,
Hmm.
and it's a day and a half event. And so I'll bring 15 at a time. And my ranch, I have, 400 acres, 13 ponds, like 2 miles, 3 miles of creek. So I get these guys out to what we call Party Lake, which is a lake, big peninsula. It's got a pavilion out there and shit that I built on it. We
Yeah.
start a fire, and everybody just hangs out, has a few drinks, eats dinner, gets to know each other out in the middle of nowhere with no phones. Then the nighttime comes, and I take these dudes hunting. I take them hog hunting in a moving vehicle. So they're like
Yeah.
literally shooting out the side of the vehicle. So have a bonding moment because I'm taking three of these dudes at a time. So the
Right.
next day, when we do the business stuff, they've had a blast on the lake. They've all
Mm.
networked and know each other, so where we can get down to business for a day. And dude, that's what's working really well. I've done uh, two of those. Oh, I've sold two of them in the last 60 days, and both of
Yeah.
them took me a day to sell them out. Didn't even have to make a call to anybody. Everybody, and matter
Yeah.
of fact, this last one, three people came back again. They were like, "Hey, put me in for the next one," and paid to come to
Mm.
the next ones.
Yeah. It's funny too. That's what I'm in the process of doing with this AUM thing. It's just fund managers, syndicators, family office guys. All we're doing is getting together and like, okay, how do we scale that? And to your
Yeah,
part, you're
or
right,
just have
man.
fun. I
Yeah,
find when you're
exactly.
having fun, man, people figure shit out. They're like, dude, you're fun to work with. I'd like to hang out with you. We need to figure out a way to make money so we have an excuse to hang out. It's
Yeah.
usually how it works, you
It
know?
does. It does. And it's too easy to get away from that. When you to your part of the beginning, it's like if you have to entertain
Yep.
everybody, like we talked about it with Champion. That was my thing. I was like, dude, it just kind of turned into Suicide Watch. Not that these guys are trying to kill each other, but it was like that,
Right.
you have to entertain them. Then after that, we do business. Then after that, it's almost like there's this high level of I've committed to you for 12 months and I got to walk on eggshells and eat cheese all year until that's
Yep.
done, and then if I haven't done a good
Yeah.
job, I got to ask you to do it again. You know what I mean? Like while I'm also building. So it just
Yep.
got to the part to where I'm like, dude, like which one's gonna, who do I want to be? Who do I want to be around? Big difference. Like you said, it's like,
Well, and
that's huge.
the bigger difference for me, especially with closer capital,
Hmm.
is you know nobody's hitting me up. They're talking
Mm.
to my brokers, and so they're
Right.
coming through. I'm in charge of leads, and people slide in my DMs are like, "Yo, I need a loan. Hook me up with one of your people," but they're not expecting to get coached by me. They know that I'm
Right.
not going to be doing their loan, and that has made me. That's freed me up to where I have time to actually build the company, because what
Mm.
was happening before is like I build a client pipeline up. Now I got to go deliver all this shit to them. And then by the time I'm done delivering it, now I got to go build the client pipeline up again. And I'm running this cycle of managing, growing the business
Hmm.
versus servicing. And I've tried to hand other people off to them, and they're like, I need Stewman for this. And I get it. I
Yeah.
understand. They think I'm the guy with the answer. That's why they signed up.
Hmm.
Versus this, they're like, they know I don't have the answer. The answer lies in the hands of the underwriter. So they just need to get their documents to somebody.
Right, right. Man, same. Dude, and that's yeah, thanks for sharing that, dude, because that's huge. Again, I always tell people the honest truth. I'm like, I bring people on that like I'm learning too. Like you got to learn from people who are playing at a bigger level or somebody you can collaborate with. But, I just do it like this because we can hide in Starbucks or on a private Zoom call, but this helps everybody.
Yeah.
Because even for myself, investor relations team, acquisitions person, there's a lot of things happening, property management company, debt people, brokers, like I'm not the guy, you know. Decision maker, yes, deal picker, yes, but in the grand scheme of things, like I'm not gonna run through all these documents, like they're gonna go someplace else, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah. So no, that's cool. So question for you. Yeah, and thanks for sharing that because I'm working on that as well with that AUM group as well as my club to just make it tight again. That Kevin Nations model, it kind of got dicey for a while. hard to keep up with, but that's because, same thing. So I'm going back to that. Like, I just want a quality group where we can spend some time, have fun, and then talk shop. So what do you think it really takes after everything you've done so far? Because I look at you as, as a major player in your space because you constantly evolve, dude. Thank you for constantly evolving because again, like we said, is like you're around people and you're like, I watch other people fall off and then I watch other people climb. What's the difference? And I can see it with you because we know each other. And for anyone watching this, so that way they get it, like you are who you are. That's real. Like what you see online, that's Ryan. Um,
Online and off. Yep.
and offline. Like there's no like weird gray area. You're not saying one thing and doing something else someplace else, and I enjoy that. But what do you think it truly takes to be a major player in your space right now? Now and for in the future for where you're headed.
Well, I think for any space, man, it takes time. You know,
Mm,
the thing about me and probably most people that watch stuff like this is I didn't have money and a bunch of resources. I had to play the long game because I don't have investors and I don't have business partners and I don't have outside funding and all this. And I've had to play the long game for, 16, 17 years now, building it up and managing it and making mistakes and learning from them. But I would say the thing that most people give up is they want things to happen too fast. You know how many times I've seen salespeople come to work for me and they're there for 3 or 4 months and then they quit because they're not making, they're making 5 or 6 grand. They need to be making 10 or 20. And then
yeah,
the month they quit, all their leads call the next person and sign up with them. You
yeah,
know what I mean? Like most people, that is the like, here's my philosophy. If I don't quit, eventually I'm going to win, right?
right,
Like if I don't quit, eventually I'm gonna win because I know this in life. Hard work may go unnoticed for a while, but eventually you get so good at it, it can't be ignored.
yeah,
And it just takes a while to get that good. Like now, when my new guys start, I tell them, it's like, hey, man, nobody expects you to be perfect in here. It's going to take you a month or two to get your bearings right. So, like, just know you're not going to come out the gate making crazy money. Maybe if you got previous experience, but if you're just learning this shit, you can't expect to make expert money without expert level of experience. So let
right.
like put your guard down, work hard, learn this stuff, live out, practice after you get off the field, all of this stuff. And
Hmm.
I try to give them that because, man, I've watched a lot of people quit and right before,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Right before somebody else just picked up the pieces they left off and took it and it wasn't even the next person that was anything special. It was just the other person quit just a little too soon. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Imagine the guys that've been running an AI business for the last 10 years and they decided to quit in 2022 because the economy was rough and then AI blows up a year later. It's the biggest thing in you see what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like
yeah, big
on the
time.
flip side, though, I look at somebody like Billy Jean, who's a friend of mine, and he was trying to teach people AI 5, 6 years ago when nobody was really buying into it. Now he's printing money because that's the most
Mm,
popular thing. He could have quit and said, "Well, shit, it's not selling like I wanted to," but he stuck with it long enough to where now he's one of the authorities.
right, right. Dude, and you're
So
right
that's
about
my
that.
secret is just fucking don't quit. You know what? Like I can't name a sport or a race or anything that anybody has ever quit into winning. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like I won because I quit. I never heard that in my life. So for me, I went through some tough times the last couple of years too, man. At one point, I had a building that was costing me like 100 grand a month,
Mm,
and it was like it was a huge building. I bit off more than I can chew. You know what I
mm,
mean? And I just knew it's like, hey man, I'm just going to keep. If I know there's a few things that I need to do every day, right? If I keep my mind grateful for what I have, if I go to the gym, if I stay moving the needle towards my goals, if I'm hanging around the right people, and if I'm trusting God, if I'm doing those things every day, it's only a matter of time for the fucking scale has to tip the other way. It's
right,
when here's what most people does: life gets hard, so they stop doing those things, thinking they're not working. Life gets hard for me. I keep doing them, knowing they're not working now, but they will work because that's what's always got me there.
right, right. Man, you know what? That's huge. And it's that's how you well, I was talking about it earlier, what you're saying. Not quitting gives you like I mean, it's a big fancy word, but discernment. You could see stuff. Everyone's
Yeah.
like, dude, how'd you know? It's like, well, I've done something so long and I've not quit. So I've kind of seen all the stuff that didn't work, but even though I didn't quit, now I can pick it up on the way to the next space that I'm going. So
Yep.
dude, I'm just making circles. So I've already circled this spot before, so I kind of have an idea. Or probably the same thing, like if you see somebody that works in the office, I'm sure you're probably like me, like, dude, I'll never tell you that you're gonna fail, but I can tell if you don't have it, that thing,
Yeah.
because you watch the same thing or you try to motivate people, but you can tell. But that comes, like you said, from just not quitting over time. And so it's kind of a blessing and a curse to not have, because then you have to create. But on the creation part, it kind of comes with that ability to kind of see things as they happen.
Well, let me leave you with this
Yeah.
because I have a meeting here in a couple minutes. But I started out in 2008 posting on Facebook. By
Mhm.
2010, I went all in and was trying to teach people that Facebook was where all the money was at. And nobody believed me. Like, people were like, dude, social media is a fad and all this stuff, right? It seems crazy to even say that today, but that's what they used to tell me. Not one or two of them, all of them,
All of them.
right?
Yeah.
Because MySpace was a fad,
Mm.
sort of, right? And so people thought it was just going to fade like MySpace. And so, I was a little bit early to that game, but I made a commitment in 2012 that I'm going to post at least once a day on Facebook, and I'm going to just at least once a day forever.
Yeah.
And so I kept doing that, man. And for 2012 to 2016, nothing really happened. Maybe I gained 10,000 followers during that time, 20,000
Mhm.
followers, which ain't shit if you're trying to create a bunch of content over the course of fucking 4 years, right?
Right.
So, hey, you know what? 2016 to 2020, I'm still posting once a day. I'm still doing it at least once a day. I'm still doing my thing. All that time, all the way up until 2025, I
Mm.
gained 60,000 followers on Facebook. Okay. So from nothing to 2025, I got 60,000 followers on Facebook. At some point, about April of 2025, making a post every day started paying off. And last year, my shit went to 170,000 followers in 1 year. I got 120 million views on Facebook and Instagram, which is
Mm.
more than I've had cumulative the whole entire life of being online before in 1 year. And I say that because I never fucking quit. That would have never happened. That breakthrough that's led to tens of millions of dollars of loans that we've done. That breakthrough that's led to 100 million plus people in
Mm.
just 12 months
Yeah.
seeing my shit would have never fucking happened. And I promise you, for 15 fucking years, I'm like, why is it not growing? What is the deal here? Why? I see these guys get a million followers. I see these dudes blow up. I see these people going viral. What the
Mm.
fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? But I didn't ever quit. I didn't ever
Right.
go, well, maybe it's not for me. I just went, you know what, man? Maybe they're A-list celebrities and I'm C. Let me go play my role as a C-level celebrity. You
Right.
know what I mean? Maybe they're A-level business operators and I'm C. Let me play my level at C and I'll get really good at being a C-level.
Mm.
Like, you need a motherfucking stand in for a position, I'm your guy. You know what I mean? And I
Right.
just kept on and kept on and kept on and staying true to who I am. I didn't go out there and reinvent myself every 6 years pretending to be something. I never lied to people, man. I didn't fake cars and fake jets. Even when I was in all that, I'm like, y'all think I'm out here blowing money. I'm making money off y'all because y'all keep buying them from me.
Right.
And that I've always just been real like that. And I'm
Mm.
telling you, all that time with minimal results. And now I get more followers added to my deal in a month than I used to get in 5 years.
Mm.
And nothing's really changed except for now the content's out there and now it's consistent. And you know what the most beautiful thing is? People can say, hey, man, when you were in this position, what were you thinking? How were you acting? Fuck, go back to 2014, motherfucker.
It's
It's all
right
there
there.
online. And you can see exactly what I was going through and how I figured it out because I told the whole story in live action while it
Yeah.
was happening.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'll be honest with you, man. And I'll say this, I know you got to run, but like, I watched something you did. It was like basic math too. You were just talking about like, hey, just post. And I was trying to work my YouTube channel. So I just really started paying attention to my YouTube channel last year. I had 75 followers or something ridiculous, with maybe like 1,000, less than 2,000 views. I watched you. It was some basic stuff that you said, and I used that concept. I was like, oh, so if I get an average reel of like 100 views, and I just want to get 300, then post three a day, 5 days or 6 days a week, and just be done with it. I did that. I went from that literally, and we haven't talked about this because you didn't know. I hit 450,000 views like last week. Just
Nice. Hell yeah.
consistently. But again, because remember I told you I'm a peeping Tom because I'm working doing other stuff, but I pay attention. And it's like,
Yeah.
like for people out there who don't think that you got to listen to somebody who knows more than what you're doing and study successful people, study success. Like it's not it leaves clues, it's doing it right in front of you. Because by the time you see your clues, it's too late, right? Because you've been doing it
Yeah.
for 14 years. So if you think that's a like, oh, I'm gonna do what that guy does, dude, you missed the party. He's already doing. He's past there. Like you're not. You're gonna quit. But I did what you said, man. And some kick, some don't.
It works.
Look at them.
Math is math, man.
Yeah, it
If you
is.
only get, like you said, if you only get 100 views of video and you want 1,000 people a day to see your shit, then, or you want 1,000 views a day, you
Mhm.
better post 10 videos,
Right.
but most people, they won't do that. They're like, oh, well, this video flopped. Man, I'm going to tell you what a real Instagram profile looks like. Okay. It looks like one video gets 50,000 views, the next one gets five, and then the
Mm,
next one gets 100,000 views, and then the next one gets 6,000 views. Like these people that you see every video gets a million views or an
yeah.
exact number. That's a bot bullshit, man.
Yep.
Think about this. You go to the store and you buy you a CD, or you go to
Mhm.
Spotify and you turn on someone's new album. Every song on that motherfucker ain't for you.
Yep. That's
I
right.
don't care who it is. Be your favorite artist in the world, but every song on there ain't for you. There's going to
Hmm.
be songs that like some of them you like, some of them you don't. Same with your content. How could you have the expectation that everything you do is a hit? Who
Going
are
to
you,
be a
Rick
hit.
Rubin? You're not, right? Like you
Right.
don't know what a hit is. You know what I
That's
mean?
right.
You just got to put you got to put the content and the quantity of
Hmm.
content out there to see if you got some hits, right? If I
Yep.
go write 100 songs, surely one of them's going to reign with the audience.
Yeah, that's right. That's
You
right.
know?
And be honest with you, man, like I because I'm in the real estate game, right? Real estate period. So real estate's everyone does stuff offline. Like most of the biggest people that I connect with, they don't have they're not online. So, but what I noticed was I was getting ready to do a deal during COVID with my attorney sent me a opportunity. He was like, "Hey, I can't be involved in this deal. It's a $90 million deal, and I'm going somewhere with the online stuff." And I was going through the stuff, and I've been screwed before in real estate, like in finance, so I get it. So I was going through the paperwork. I was getting ready to wire money over to JP Morgan, which was their holding stuff, because it was this big thing. And I was like, okay, but then when I was looking, I was like, something's off on the paperwork. Looked them up online. One scam report, nothing else about these people. Called my attorney, and I'm like, what's going on with this? He's like, yeah, they have this. And I was like, well, let's get them on the phone. And I was like, so we got on the phone. I was like, hey guys, nothing about you online. And they were kind of blowing it off. Yeah, we don't really do that, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, there's nothing about you online except a scam report. And they were like, yeah, but that was somebody not happy. That was one thing. I was like, but you understand that if there's nothing else about you online but the one thing, that's 100%. It's not,
That's all we got to judge.
yeah.
That's all we got to judge you by.
So I
Yeah.
didn't do the deal. My attorney was pissed off and he was like, oh, you're making me look bad. And I was like, well, tell you what, then you wire the money, you do the deal. And as it starts to pencil out, I will forward you back the money and then, indemnify you. And then it'll all revert over to me since you believe in him so much. And he's like, well, I can't do that, blah, blah, blah. Fast forward 4 months ago, we were talking and I was like, hey, how'd that go? And he's like, oh man, good thing you didn't do that with those guys. Those guys are in a giant lawsuit right now. And I was like, okay,
Yeah,
cool.
of
But
course.
it wasn't because of the paperwork. It was because of what we're talking about. You have zero footprint online. So sometimes, and I learned this from a lot of people, right? Because I'm involved in a lot of back end stuff as a private investor as well, a passive investor. And I'm like, dude, most of the time, a lot of times what you're doing it, you think you're doing it for views, but you're doing it to be viewed. So like if I'm dealing with a broker that's in California, we're looking at a $200 million deal or $100 million, whether I'm going to buy it or not. They're going to go online. They're going to look at LinkedIn. They're going to look at Instagram. They're going to go to Facebook. They're going to Google me. And I need to show up and it needs to be relevant from like yesterday or today, or I'm at some conference, private equity conference or some capital shit or real estate. And I'm like, hey, Vic's here. Come talk to me. Like, that's confirmation because you don't, like you said, you don't know which one's going to hit. But if you're just doing it for views, that's one thing. But but the other side to it is you need to be found. It's a business card. Just like those people, they missed out on getting, a couple hundred grand from me. That was a loss. Again, it was a scam, but that was their win that they did, because if they were
Right.
a bunch of stuff, regardless, it could have been all bad. I could have been like, okay, well, let's talk about the bad stuff, explain it to me, let me make my own decisions. But that there was limited information, it didn't work. So that's why, like, for me, I'm like, dude, more people need to see me, even if it's bad. I'd rather someone see my face, see my name, Victor, Bell Capital, whatever it is that I'm doing, and it just be the, the stop sign you run on your way to your house because you see it all the time. Who cares? But like to your point, people think that it just happens, but it's gotta happen. And if you don't play that game, um, you can't build anything big because I mean we've all heard it. If nobody knows you, they can't. They don't know you, they can't flow you. Whatever. Like attention is a new currency. But as of late, I'll say this, and you tell me because I know you got to jump. Um, I'm starting to realize how important it is to be belly to belly with people talking about doing bigger deals. And so I'm always like, Zooms are for information, but Zooms are for information, but rooms are for money, right? I heard somebody say that, and I was like, dude, that's so true because no one's ever wired 100,000, 200,000, $1 million. I've never raised money from a partner or done a deal without seeing this person, talking to them. People are doing it, but that's a problem. So, but I get it. But back to the posting and the social and getting out there, man, it's required now. That's the get known, but the other piece is like kind of like you said with your ranch. It's like you got to get around the right people, man. It's not, I mean, connections is going to be the new currency, and if you can't get in front of good people anymore, probably in the next 5 years, you won't have a business or a company to run. Period. Period. I mean, I truly believe
Yep.
because again,
Yeah,
this
I
is
think
this
you're
is
going to
changing.
see. Yeah, you're going to see more people want to deal with humans because of AI and social media. You're going to see a revert back to that. You'll see it in the next year or so for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, for sure. Well, hey,
So,
man, I know you got to bounce. Hey, dude, thanks so much, man. Like I said, means a lot to me. Anybody that's watching this, I know it's going to mean a lot to them too. How do people get in contact with you? Closer Capital, anything like that, so that way, if anybody's watching, want to connect with the company.
yeah, if you need some money, go to closercap.com and all the details you can need about loan programs and everything is right there. Just go there, type in what kind of loan that you're looking for to give you all the stuff that we need from you, everything. So it's like I'm very proud of that site. It'll tell you everything that you need to know and then some.
Perfect, dude. Man, what a great.
There's even AI calculators on there to figure out your cash flow and everything, you know?
Yeah, nice. Dude, man, how easy is the conversation? And before we jump, is just to be like, if you need some money, like everybody wants money, right? So it's like, what that's like,
No,
buy my book. I don't know if you're going to be successful, but if you need financing for a business that's making money or whatever, dude, that's a kind of like my guy said, if you're going to get in the business, get in the money business. I love
it's easier than selling coaching. I know that.
it.
So,
Amen for
well,
that.
thanks, Vic.
For sure,
Appreciate you,
bro.
man.
Guarantee, bro. Have a great day today, man. I appreciate you.